New escalation in President Trump's showdown with the four progressive congresswomen known as the Squad as their Twitter battle continues to blow up social media. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar tweeted this last night. You all should end this charade and accept that this racist president wants every black, brown person deported and Muslims banned. His immigration policies say this much. The president tweeted this morning, I don't believe the four congresswomen are capable of loving our country.
It began when Ilhan Omar shared a heated post on social media, accusing the president of wanting to deport minorities and block Muslim immigrants. Within hours, her message spread everywhere, setting off a wave of strong reactions across the country. Supporters praised her for speaking out, saying she voiced concerns many were afraid to express. But others called her remarks unfair and misleading, arguing that such claims only deepen division at a time when unity is needed most. People across the political spectrum were left questioning how an elected official could make such broad accusations without clear evidence. Instead of opening space for honest debate, her words seemed to draw battle lines and fuel more anger. What started as a political comment quickly became personal, raising doubts not just about policy, but about integrity and leadership itself.
They should apologize to America and Israel for their horrible, hateful things that they've said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation.
You've got Ilhan Omar calling President Trump a racist again, claiming he wants every black and brown person deported and every Muslim banned. But here's the truth. That's not just a lie. It's an insult to every American who can still tell the difference between facts and political theater. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss when we expose the left's propaganda and defend the truth.
You know, it's an interesting thing. Psychologists will tell you this. If a person thinks that you don't like them or that you hate them, then everything you say they will interpret in that light. And if they think you love them, everything you say they will interpret in that light. And it can be exactly the same thing.
Ilhan Omar has once again accused former President Trump of racism, claiming he wants to deport minorities and ban Muslims. But that claim, many argue, isn't based on facts. It's a political statement meant to stir emotions rather than promote understanding. Such remarks don't just attack one person, they undermine the ability of Americans to separate truth from political spin. Before we continue, take a moment to support the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way, you'll always stay updated as we break down political narratives and focus on facts that truly matter.
You know, we need to get away from all of this parsing of words and analysis, and really, let's talk about the actual problems that we have and how we would solve them. I think we'd be far ahead in the game, and I really think that's what the American people want to hear.
Ben Carson is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he joins me right now. And Mr. Secretary, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
What a fight. Oh, my goodness. So, look, you're an African-American successful business person. You're the Secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all. You know, the first time I met him, it was before we got into politics, was down at Mar-a-Lago. And he and I were talking, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. You know, that's the kind of person he is. and you may remember when we were running for president at one of the debates.
Amid all the heated back and forth, Ben Carson chose a different approach. Speaking calmly and with quiet confidence, he shared his perspective shaped by first-hand experience rather than emotion or political bias. Carson firmly dismissed the idea that racism defined the administration, saying he had personally seen fairness, respect, and equal treatment in action. He reminded Americans that true leadership should be judged by what it delivers, not by rumors or partisan claims. Coming from someone who built a remarkable career through hard work and perseverance, his message carried real weight. Carson's words focused on unity and opportunity instead of blame or division, and for many people watching, his steady tone felt like a moment of clarity in the middle of a noisy debate.
And I couldn't hear my name announced, so I was standing there. Everybody else gleefully walked past me, but Trump stood right next to me until they straightened it out. You know, that's the kind of person that he is. You know, he lived in New York. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for the incredible things that he had done in the African American community. I have never seen anything that even resembles racism. And look at the policies that have been done, and look at the people who have been helped. You know, black unemployment at the lowest level ever. Same thing for Hispanics. You look at the fact that he has engaged so much in second chance for people, you know, things that other people talked about, but he has done. You know,
Carson then presented facts that painted a completely different picture from Omar's claims. He pointed out the record low unemployment rates among minority communities, new opportunity zones that revitalize struggling neighborhoods, and initiatives designed to help families move out of poverty. These, he said, weren't just promises from a campaign speech, they were real, measurable results that had changed lives. To Carson, that was what real leadership looked like, getting things done rather than throwing accusations. His message was clear and steady: progress should never be ignored because of political noise. He reminded Americans that emotion without proof may capture headlines, but it's truth backed by results that earns lasting respect and trust.
Opportunity zones where people who've made enormous amounts of money have the opportunity to take unrealized capital gains and to plow them into the areas of the country that have traditionally been neglected. You know, it's what's been done. It's not what's been said or how it's been interpreted and hashed over and over in the media.
But Secretary, look at this tweet that Ilhan Omar has put out. I mean, this is an elected congresswoman, an elected position that says that, you know, the president wants every black and brown person deported, every Muslim banned. How is this possible that an elected official can get away with saying this as if this is fact?
Well, you know, there is a radical element. I don't want to talk about a specific congressperson because of the Hatch Act, but, you know, there is a radical element that has been introduced into our legislative body.
One of the most memorable moments came when Carson shared that many people had quietly thanked him for what the administration achieved but admitted they couldn't say it out loud. They feared being criticized, losing friends, or being unfairly labeled. That, Carson said, revealed something troubling about today's political climate. Too many people are afraid to speak honestly. When fear controls what people can say, true free speech disappears. And that silence, he warned, is what keeps division alive.
Seems to be intent on pushing their ideology. And they have an accomplice in the media in doing so. And this is very detrimental to our country. You know, I think, you know, we should be having a conversation with the media, and they should be having a conversation themselves, asking themselves, why is it that the press is the only business that has been protected by our Constitution? And the reason is because they were supposed to disseminate objectively to the people of America real information upon which they could make decisions. They were not supposed to try to manipulate people. So, you know, there are the radical element that is taking advantage of the ideological bent of the media, and it's unfair to the people. But as Thomas Jefferson said, the people will come through. The people will be smart enough to figure this out. I hope that's...
Carson didn't stop there. He shifted his focus to the media, calling out how many outlets seem more interested in stirring outrage than reporting facts. He reminded everyone that freedom of the press was meant to protect honest journalism, not to give cover for twisting stories or promoting one-sided narratives. Over time, he said, too much of the media has replaced objective reporting with activism, choosing headlines that fit a political goal instead of telling the full truth. That kind of storytelling, Carson warned, only deepens division and keeps people from seeing the bigger picture. His message was straightforward: Americans don't need drama or bias. They deserve clear, truthful reporting that helps them understand what's really going on.
There you have it, the president wrapping up a conversation with reporters on the White House lawn right now due to rain, but he did go on about the political fight that's happening between him and his tweets over the weekend and the 4 congressional females, also known as the Squad. So we got to bring in some of the experts, one of them being joining us right now, the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Ben Carson. So, Mr. Secretary, we just heard him speak now, but overall we know that the House did condemn his comments as racist. Do you think the president's tweets were racist?
Not at all. You know, I've known the president for some time, And I've never seen any indication of that whatsoever. You know, he lived in New York for a long time. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for the work that he's done in the black community. I remember the very first time I met the president.
The difference between Omar's tone and Carson's message couldn't have been more striking. While Omar leaned on outrage and emotional appeals, Carson responded with calm reasoning and real-life experience. Their exchange highlighted a growing problem: how accusations of discrimination are often used to shut down debate instead of encouraging honest discussion. Carson countered those claims with facts and steady logic, showing that evidence speaks louder than emotion. He reminded people that real progress doesn't come from slogans or online outrage, but from understanding, fairness, and genuine effort. His words carried weight not just because of politics, but because they reflected a lifetime of experience and thoughtful leadership.
At Mar-a-Lago, before we were into the political arena, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. I mean, that's the kind of person that he is, and that's the kind of person I've always known him to be. You know, his interest is in everybody doing well, and the policies are such that a rising tide floats all boats. And you can see that. The manifestation is so clear, you know, in terms of the unemployment rate, particularly for minorities.
Yeah, but that's not what we were talking about. We're talking about whether his tweets were racist or not. I understand the policies are great and the economy is doing well, but this is a question of racism.
Yeah, well, the place where that intersects is because he is spending so much time and energy with policies that elevate the very people that they are claiming that he is against.
Carson also noted an important truth often missed in politics: people hear through emotion. When they feel disliked, even simple words can sound like an attack. But when they feel respected, those same words seem kind. He warned that this habit of assuming intent without understanding context is hurting the country. Carson urged Americans to step back from emotional reactions and focus on real solutions. His message was simple: progress requires calm thinking, not constant outrage.
Secretary Carson, thank you very much for joining us. Question for you. Do you think that these four women, these young women in Congress, the so-called squad, do they represent minority thinking, or in particular, do they represent the view that a lot of people in the African-American community have of President Trump, or is that community open to the idea that his policies, higher wages, the things that are happening economically that are good for African-Americans are more important than these tweets and these sort of battles that he gets in?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right in that it's the impact. It's what's actually happening.
Amid all the arguments, one truth stood firm: millions of people around the world still dream of coming to America because it stands for freedom, opportunity, and a better life. That fact alone challenges the idea that the nation is defined by hate. Carson reminded everyone that no country is flawless, but America's progress over time is clear and measurable. Ironically, he said, many who've gained the most from that progress are often the quickest to criticize it. This contradiction exposes how some political movements rely on division to stay alive. The more united people become, the less influence those movements have. That's why, Carson warned, stories built on hatred keep circulating. They distract from the real progress Americans have made together.
Folks, another day, another attack from the squad. Ilhan Omar is at it again, tweeting that President Trump supposedly wants to deport every black and brown person and ban every Muslim. This is the same tired script the left has been running since 2016. When they realized their ideas couldn't win on merit, they started screaming racist every time they lost an argument. Now, the president fired back, saying he doesn't believe the squad is even capable of loving America, and honestly, he's right. You can't claim to love this country while tearing it apart from the inside. Trump said they should apologize to America and to Israel for the hateful things they've said, and once again, he's spot on. These so-called representatives have made a career out of bashing our nation while enjoying all the freedoms it gives them.
In closing, Carson shared a message rooted in faith and optimism about the American spirit. He expressed confidence that, despite all the noise and division, people still have the ability to recognize truth when they see it. Americans, he said, can tell the difference between facts and falsehoods, between sincerity and manipulation. His hope was that the nation would move beyond the shouting and return to honest, respectful conversation. The real threat, he warned, isn't disagreement, it's deception. As long as citizens keep thinking critically and questioning what they are told, unity will eventually prevail. In the end, truth doesn't need to yell, it simply endures, waiting for those willing to hear it.
Then came Ben Carson, the man the media never gives enough credit. He stepped in and set it straight. Trump is not racist. This is a man who's worked with him closely, who knows him personally, and who's lived the American dream himself. Carson reminded everyone that long before politics, Jesse Jackson gave Trump an award for helping the black community in New York. You didn't hear CNN talk about that, did you? He also reminded us of the facts: the lowest black unemployment rate in U.S. history, same for Hispanics, and major investment into neglected communities through opportunity zones. Trump's Second Chance Act gave former inmates a shot at rebuilding their lives, something Democrats only talked about.
Then came Ben Carson, a man who's seen things up close. He said plainly that the claims of racism against Trump don't match reality. Carson, who's worked with him personally, spoke from experience, not politics. He reminded people that years before Trump entered politics, Jesse Jackson had recognized him for helping minority communities in New York, something the media rarely mentions. Carson also highlighted real results: record low unemployment for Black and Hispanic Americans, new investments in struggling areas, and the Second Chance Act, which helped former inmates rebuild their lives.
So when Ilhan Omar tweets that Trump hates minorities, she's not just lying. She's trying to rewrite history. What she's doing is dangerous. She's part of this radical wing in Congress that doesn't care about results, only narratives. And they have a willing accomplice: the mainstream media. Carson hit the nail on the head. The media is supposed to deliver facts, not manipulate emotions. But instead, they've become the propaganda wing of the left, feeding outrage, spreading division, and silencing common sense. They've forgotten that their job is to inform, not indoctrinate. And let's be real, if you watch this media long enough, you'd think America is the most hateful place on earth. Yet millions of immigrants risk everything to come here. That alone proves how false this racist America narrative really is.
During the heated debate, one congressman spoke about how division has replaced honest discussion in American politics. He reminded everyone that the nation was built on healthy disagreement, not hostility. Yet today, anyone with a different opinion is often treated like an enemy. He said freedom of speech means protecting every voice, not silencing it, adding, "America's strength comes from diversity of thought, not uniformity of belief." Another lawmaker agreed, saying too many politicians have forgotten they are in office to serve people, not parties. He warned that debates have become staged performances instead of real problem-solving. A third member pointed out that the media now thrives on division, feeding the public outrage instead of genuine information.
This isn't about racism. This is about power. The left needs division to survive, because unity exposes their failure. Trump's record with minority communities destroys their talking points, and they can't allow that truth to spread. So when Ilhan Omar screams racist, what she's really doing is trying to distract you from her own anti-American rhetoric, her anti-Israel statements, and her radical agenda that has no place in Congress. And here's the thing: Carson's faith in the American people is what keeps me hopeful. He said Americans will figure this out.
So when Ilhan Omar claims that Trump hates minorities, it's not just misleading, it's an attempt to distort reality. Her comments, critics say, reflect a growing trend in politics where narratives matter more than facts. Instead of focusing on results, this extreme faction in Congress seems more interested in shaping public emotion. Carson addressed this directly, saying the media should report truth, not manipulate feelings. Yet too often, it amplifies outrage, deepens division, and drowns out common sense. The role of journalism, he reminded everyone, is to inform the public, not to push political talking points. And despite the negative image often painted, The fact that millions of people still risk everything to come to America speaks volumes. It shows that the country remains a place of hope and opportunity, not hate.
And I agree. We're smarter than the media gives us credit for. We know what we see. We've watched this president create opportunity, not oppression. We've watched him stand for this country when others tried to tear it down. So the question is simple. Who do you believe? A hardworking neurosurgeon who's seen the truth up close, or a radical congresswoman who's built her brand on division? Folks, America is waking up. And the louder the left screams racism, the more desperate they sound. If you're proud to stand with the truth, proud to stand for America, hit that like button, drop a comment with USA Strong, and share this video so the lies don't win. Because in the end, truth always does.
And I agree, the American people are far more aware than the media gives them credit for. We see what's happening with our own eyes. We've watched this administration create opportunity instead of oppression and defend the country when others tried to divide it. Who should the public believe? A respected neurosurgeon who's seen the facts up close, or a politician who builds influence through controversy? The answer seems clear. More and more Americans are starting to see through the noise. The louder the accusations get, the weaker they sound. If you believe in standing for truth and for the country's progress, make sure your voice is heard. Share your support, stay informed, and keep focusing on facts, because in the end, truth doesn't need to shout. It simply stands firm and wins. He pointed out that while people across the country are struggling with real challenges, rising prices, unstable jobs, and safety concerns, too many politicians are busy trading insults and chasing headlines. Every moment wasted on personal attacks, he said, is a betrayal of the trust voters placed in us. His words hit hard because they echoed what many Americans already feel: frustration with leaders who seem disconnected from everyday struggles. Another representative urged Congress to return to the principles that once made America respected around the world. He reminded his colleagues that the nation's founders never promised perfection, they promised progress, and progress demands humility. Compromise, he said, isn't weakness but wisdom, and respecting those who disagree is the first step toward national healing. Later in the debate, a congresswoman warned that public trust in institutions has fallen to historic lows, not from ignorance, but from disappointment. Too many promises have been made and broken, she said, leaving citizens tired of words without action. She reminded everyone that the power of public office comes from the people, and can just as easily be taken back. As the evening drew to a close, a veteran lawmaker delivered the final message of the day. If politics continues to be treated like a battlefield, no one will win. Rebuilding trust, he said, begins with humility, and humility starts when leaders choose to listen more than they speak. The room fell silent as he ended with a warning that lingered long after. History is watching us. The question is, will we rise to this moment, or let it define our fall?